This is a need. It is a human thing. The need to know our worth for validation. But the thing is that for women, I feel that through the ages, for a long time, the majority of our worth or validation has been taken, or there's a need for it to reflect from those around us and from situations, and I'll explain more of why I think that is. But I just want us to know that there's much more, a greater source, the complete source from where our validation comes from, and we'll be talking about it today. To start, I want us to understand that there is a clear distinction between value and validation. Now, psychologists believe that self worth is just an intrinsic knowing that you are valuable, that you have worth just because you exist, and not because you've done anything or received or because of your performance, right? So, your value is intrinsic. You are worth a lot because you exist, because you are a human being. While validation is the percentage attributed to your worth, given to who people think you are, your worth in their lives, or what you've done for them, or, just different measures. It could be your performance in different areas, right? So, the validation that we take from people or from ourselves, there's a percentage to it. So that's why I want to make the distinction before we move on, because I don't want us to ever think that there could be a measure of our value, right? But I also would like to say that it is through validation that we get to understand our value, right? So it's necessary and it's needed. I believe that there's this instinct that we have as human beings that we just know that we're valuable, right? Like if someone mistreats us or does something to us that feels wrong, we just feel like just this inside angst that that's not okay. But as we grow up, and especially from our caregivers, we were in a perfect world, and hopefully you received this. We were supposed to be thought or taught our value, right? So that it is just deep seated within us, so that it's cemented, so that when we go out into the world, no matter how people treat us, we just know, okay, I'm worth it. And as a Christian, as a believer, I believe that your parents, your caregivers help you to point you to the source of your complete validation. So I truly believe that in different ways, you can assign to your people or to different people the kind of validation you receive. And, I just want to talk about it some more because I've been thinking and just musing, and I think I've come to a place where I'm getting to understand this more as women, but I'm still growing in it and growing in how to communicate it, right? But at the end of the day, there is just this place where we know we can get the complete 100% of the validation that we need. And if you are watching this and you are not a Christian, I do encourage you to just keep watching to the end, because there's something that I want to give to you as well, in terms of like just like a guide and a teaching to help you as well, so you can engage fully. But I am speaking from my beliefs and speaking from my perception, which has actually helped me a lot, as a woman. So let's go into what I have seen. There's just cycle that I've seen with women throughout the ages, and this pendulum, yeah, pendulum swinging just in different areas of where we've been trying to find our worth as women. And I think that one of the strong indications of just our makeup is that with women, or it also shows how we are wired and our giftings as women, because we are made for connection. We actually help to cement and to um, keep bonds strong. You know, it is deeply shown that the mother, the wife in a family, helps to be the glue to keep the family unit together. And in different circles where you see women, we're highly gifted to help to just cement connection. But there can be another side to that, where because we are so gifted for connections, we then are probably wired to seek the validation from, those outside of us. And I really don't think it's wrong, but when it gets to a place where it's unhealthy or it's lacking, that's where we have issues and problems. So one of the first things I've noticed is that there are times, and it could be like, for one woman it may not be all of this, it could be, but I'm noticing in society, right? There are times when the validation would come from the romantic connection, from your partner, but like for women, just seeking the validation from men or from, a husband or the marital status in your life, if it was only from that, she would leave feeling disappointed, because no man could ever fully give her the complete validation that she needed. I mean, he's going through learning about himself too. Even the healthiest of man, and I know that throughout the ages and just through the studies, there was also just like this high mindset towards like just a male mindset, or the society created for men, and maybe it's like that still to this day in some ways. I get it, but even the healthiest of men just wouldn't be able to fill a woman completely. So maybe she would just leave feeling lacking, and then she would go to looking for a validation in her children or her family, now mostly her children. So it could be, okay, she's looking for validation in her children, and at one point, because of how good kids are with just being so accepting and loving, and gracious, easily forgiving, she could feel that she's filled. But eventually, as they should, children grow up to go out to live their own lives. So eventually, that mom, no matter how fulfilled she was at a point, then ends up feeling empty, right? So then comes a time where maybe that woman goes to find validation in her career. And I think that this could also feel more stable. It's based on your performance, the pay that you get, but then there's still a lack, where women may end up feeling overworked, underpaid. Even statistically, we know that, like, even in the same industry, um, on average, men get paid more than women. Even though a woman may need to be doing so much to assert her worth and her, what's the word? There's a word. It like trying to find the word. The measure of how much she can actually give to the job. I don't know why I'm blanking on words lately. Like I've been really trying to learn Spanish actively, and it's like sometimes like my English, or the English words I'm trying to find, just gets lost in the sauce. But I believe you understand what I'm trying to say. Right? So anyways, okay, there's a lack even in the career. And then in the fourth place, this is what I found, that a woman just ends up trying to find the validation from herself. And I think that's mostly where we're at as a society where most women are okay with saying, okay, I'm on my own, I'm doing my own thing, I'm a boss babe. And I think honestly, like as a modern woman myself, I think there's something healthy about it. But I do also see another dynamic where it's just getting the validation from me alone. And there's an issue with that because just trying to get validation from yourself, you do realize that you're flawed, that you make mistakes, and that you're not perfect. And then what happens? You just end up feeling disappointed even within yourself. And I feel that that could be one of the deepest pains that you could feel because if you can't even find it, the validation you need, the complete validation within yourself, what can you do? Like, where can you turn? And that's where this is where we get to God the Father being our source of validation, our creator, the one who created us, loves us unconditionally, and gives us so much grace. You know, I loved what a preacher said that I heard recently. And he said, actually, his name is Don Ragnan, and he's one of the leaders in our churches here. And he said, grace is knowing that you are not enough, you'll never be enough, but there's someone who is enough. And he's okay being enough for you. So, in spite of all the areas where we could seek or try to find our validation, we find that it's always been from the source and needed from Him. And that gets me back to the point where I really believe that parents, yes, are supposed to love their children unconditionally and help to cement that validation because we need it as human beings, and then point us to the source. And even if we didn't receive that, or if there was just some issues as can happen, in any family, now you can know that the source of your validation comes from God. I hope I'm making sense with this. Now, something I want to do is to ensure that we just try our best to live in balance. And what I mean by that is we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Validation does come from our connections around us. And they're so beautiful, especially with the healthy dynamics. And we have a part to play in that as well. But anyways, like we'll get to there one day. But so, our friends, our family, they help to just inspire us, to celebrate us, to see things within ourselves that we can't see, and to help us to be better. And we do the same for them. So, while I'm saying, that the complete source of our validation is from God, those around us help with that as well. So going back to the husband, to children, to the career, or to yourself, yes, those can be good sources of validation. But at the times when there may be a lack or a dip, it's good for us to not feel incomplete because we don't have to, and like I want to say this carefully, but I do believe that we shouldn't feel incomplete, But I do know for myself, and when I say we shouldn't, because we've always had God being there for us to give us the fullness of what we've needed all along. But I know for myself, even as a Christian for years, have known God for basically all my life. There have been times when I would forget that He's the source, or I'm going to learn that He's the source of my validation and full acceptance. So, yes, I myself have found me being in seasons where I would seek validation from these areas and end up feeling disappointed. And I don't even know if these four areas are the only ones, but they were the main ones I could think of. And I think we can all like agree that mainly these are the four areas that women would seek validation from. So it's not wrong, but it isn't complete. And I can also think of like, even like, I, as a single woman waiting and desiring marriage, I have heard testimonies from other married women, you know, different women married for different ranges of years. They would just attest to the fact that their husband, they found, even if they thought at one point, they found that he wouldn't fully be her source of just, validating or helping her to feel her self-worth. Therefore, she had to find it, as Christian woman, in God, you know? And even just in other areas of careers, what I believe I'm seeing with just women talking about, okay, they're just gonna find themselves or be focusing on self improvement. I think it's come from a place of greater awareness, but also some disappointment. But that can be okay, or it can also turn out to be a good thing where we now discover that though I have tried everything and haven't found the complete the complete fulfilling that I need, there's only one place that I can turn to. And I think in some ways or another, we get to that place where we find, okay, it's always been from and in God. And I think we can celebrate that, because that's a good place to be. Because you know what? When you turn to God, you will find, you will find that your needs are filled in the most amazing ways ever. You find hope, you find joy, you find such peace and love. That's where you even discover more about yourself that you were trying to probably find in other areas. What are your needs, what you like? Because uh going to God as your source doesn't, I think, okay, I didn't really think about this before, like how to put this into words, but I'll try. Sometimes, like, what we're taught in Christianity is to lay down ourselves and our needs, be sacrificial. And there's a place where that is true. But like so many things where it's like the answer is yes and yes. I mean, yes, when you lay your lives down before God, that's where you find yourself. Like Jesus said, those who lose their lives for my sake end up finding their lives. And I think it relates to this, where when you just like fully look to Him, that's where you find the love you've always needed. And you're so filled that you can pour it out onto others and help them as well to find the full source of what they need to, when you don't have the capacity to give everything they need either, right? Right, so I think it's so amazing. And this has been my observation, and I hope it helps you, encourages you. Like, if you're a woman and you just need to find the fullness of acceptance and love, I want to encourage you that it's there for you. And I encourage you to seek it in God. And if you are a non-Christian, like I said before, I had something for you, and it is this. Because if you've been watching this video all this way, there is a reason that you have. And I want to encourage you to ask God who He is, if He's real, and to please reveal Himself to you, and the love that this woman has been talking about. So let me know what has impacted you most from this speech. I would like to. And thank you for listening and watching. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Have a great day.